It has stopped raining. Both pitchers are warming up, and we would appear to be 7 minutes away from a start. So let's pay a visit with Tommy Lasorda and go to Stu.
All right, Vin, you're right now down to a 3-game series. There are some people who say when you get to this point, the 5th game is the most pivotal, especially for St. Louis if they're a game down going out there. Do you agree with this?
Well, the 5th game is very pivotal, no question about that, because whoever wins this ball game certainly only needs to win one more ball game. But it's a 3-game series, and the advantage is that fact that we have 2 games remaining in our ballpark, and if we could win one of the next 2, then the 7th game is going to be played in our ballpark. That's the way it is. When you start the series, if you play in the other man's ballpark, all you want to do is split there, then come to your ballpark, win 2 out of 3, then go into the other ballpark and win 1 of 2. That's why this game is very important today.
These are professional athletes that you are managing. They were humiliated yesterday with a loss. A loss is a loss is a loss. It's behind. Do you say anything to your guys and say forget about it?
Yes, I had a meeting with them today, and I told them, hey, that game's over with. All they did was tie us. It's now the best of 3. And if we can't beat them 2 out of 3 now, then we don't deserve to win this thing. And I wanted them to forget that. A loss, regardless of how many runs you're beaten by, is the same. So don't let the runs indicate anything to you. Just remember one thing, all they did was tie us.
Mariano Duncan missed 1 game, came back, played a couple innings yesterday. Is he 100%?
He's ready to go. That's the reason why we took him out as early as we did, because when we got so far behind, I would rather have given him a little bit more rest than taking a chance on having him play where the field was wet and get hurt or re-injure his leg. So he's ready to go today. I think you're going to see a good Mariano Duncan today.
You saw a lot of St. Louis during the season. You played them 12 games. You won 7, lost 5. You saw tapes of their series with the Mets. Are they doing anything to surprise you in this series?
No, that's the way they play the game of baseball. They're a very good ball club, Stu. They've won 101 ball games. And a lot of people don't realize how tough this ball club is. If they get good pitching, then they score runs because they get a lot of base hits. They have tremendous speeds. They turn doubles into bases on balls and singles.
Thank you so much, Tommy. Good
Thank you, Stu.
Okay. Benny, Joe, it's yours.
Thank you, fellas, Stu and Tommy. You know, there's one thing that is certainly happening, and that is the so-called home field advantage. It has been letter perfect both in the American League and the National League.
Well, that's why I always have to laugh in when I hear ball players say we don't hear the crowds. You don't hear this, something is wrong. And the crowd here, the crowd in Los Angeles, you do hear it, and you hear the boos when they give it to you. You don't like that. You like the cheers. That, to me, is the home field advantage.
And, of course, it was letter perfect until Toronto turned over Kansas City's apple cart in KC one time. But nevertheless, the home field has certainly been rather strongly emphasized in both league championship series. In today's starting lineups, there's a change, and that would be Darryl Porter's behind the plate. What does that tell you instead of Tom Nieto?
Well, he's got to go with Porter. That's again, that's the horse that got him here, and it says to me that they're going to do what they did in Los Angeles. If the Dodgers get on, they're going to run.
It was an interesting thing that last night, in a 9-run inning, that the Cardinals failed to steal a base.
And they did it with singles. Well, you said it was like being eaten to death by a moth, and that's about it. It's a ball club. I think the biggest thing, and it showed up last night, even in that big high-scoring game, what Willie McGee can do in center field. They plug up the gaps. They keep the double play in order. The defense of this Cardinal ball club is a good one.
And I have just one pregame guess. I think for the first time in the National League Championship Series of 1985, today's game will probably be a true showdown between the 2 bullpens. We haven't had that yet,
no.
But I think we're going to have it today.
Well, we'll look forward to it.
All right, and the first thing we ought to do, we will check the starting lineups as the Cardinals are about ready to take the field. There it is, the Ozzie Smith backflip. So the Cardinals have taken their defensive stations, and let's take a look at the way the Dodgers will stack up as we're about ready to get underway. Mariano Duncan will be at shortstop. Kenny Landreau in center field. Pedro Guerrero hitting in the number 3 slot in left, and Bill Madlock hitting cleanup. Mike Marshall in right field. Mike Scioscia behind the plate. Greg Brock with only 1 hit, but it was a 2-run home run. He's at first. Steve Sachs, who has been swinging a very hot bat, at second base, and the pitcher Fernando Valenzuela.
Defensively, Landrum is in center field. McGee, Cedeno, And that's pretty good speed, of course, in left and center field. McGee will have to cover some ground for Cedeno, who's in there for his bat. Pendleton, what can you say about Pendleton? He's just been playing tremendously at third base. Ozzie Smith, backflip. Most people, they would think they would be hot dogging it, but not with him. He does it all the time. The crowd loves it, and why not? Tremendous shortstop. Tommy Herr at second base, Jack Clark at first base, Porter behind the plate, and the spotlight brightest is always on the pitcher. And if Forsch has got his good stuff, he'll be keeping that ball down. Here comes Ozzie out, and fans love it. And I mean, he is a good athlete, good enough. No danger of him getting hurt doing that. Isn't that beautiful?
Well, he's been doing cartwheels and handsprings for years in the National League, the Wizard of Oz. Now, all eyes center stage on Bob Forsch. Bob Forsch has made 9 of 19 quality starts. He was in the Cardinal rotation from the middle of April through the middle of May. Then in the rotation from the end of May to June, he was then dropped out of the rotation. That's when the Cardinals went to a 4-man rotation, and the one man who certainly profited was John Tudor. He was out of the rotation from June 9th until August 11th. However, from August 11th on, he has made 7 of 10 quality starts, 6 innings or more, and 3 runs or less allowed. His best game, a 3-hit shutout against the Phillies in September.
Vin, here is something that really surprised me, because you talk about the Cardinals, and we saw it in the movie. You think about Pepper Martin and one of the great names, Dizzy Dean. Just think, with 5 more victories, Bob Forsch will tie Dizzy Dean for number 5 on the all-time St. Louis wins list with 134. You can win a lot of bets with that one.
And as we had said, he is the senior man as far as point of continuous service on the Cardinals. Only one other pitcher in the National League has been with his team longer, and that would be Steve Carlton, who was traded by the Cardinals to the Philadelphia Phillies. Another thing about Bob Forsch, the Cardinals have an extra bat in the lineup. He has 8 career home runs. He hit 1 this year in Atlanta. So they have a lot going for him. He might be considered the number 5 pitcher, but they give him a ball, and he's equal to the job.
You mentioned Steve Carlton. He's in the ballpark watching this game. You hear so much about doesn't talk to the press, this, that, and the other thing, but here he is watching this crucial 5th game.
As we're ready to get started, we would sure like to thank Mike Shannon, Stu Nahan, and Jay Randolph, and the players and officials who cooperated, along with the home video film, to help us with that lengthy delay, because now the stage is cleared, and here we go, game 5. Ball 1 to Mariano. Bob Forsch, with 2 no-hitters in his career, in 1978 against Philadelphia and 1983 against Montreal. Strike, 1-1. The most walks he allowed in a game, 6, in a no decision against the Cubs. He is not a strikeout man. His high, 4, and he has done that 6 times. He's behind 2-1. You know, talking about Bob Forsch and his no-hitter brings up an interesting point about 85, ball 3. We didn't have a no-hitter this year. So this year is only the 2nd year without a no-hitter since 1949. The other year without a no-hitter was 82. Strike, 3-2. We were talking about the string of National League home victories in the championship series. There's ball 4. The home team has won 12 consecutive National League Championship Series games. The last visiting National League team to win a game, Philadelphia, beat the Dodgers 1-0 in 1983 at Dodger Stadium.
Forsch has a good move to first base, and he's quick unloading to the plate, so he will give his catcher a lot of help, and you can expect Duncan, if he gets any kind of a jump, to just take off, even though a left-hand hitter and a big gap between first and second.
He's 4 for 4 against the Cardinals during the regular year. 4-1. Landreau is hitting almost .290 lifetime against Bob Forsch. He might be the patient hitter to see if Mariano tries to get the jump. And it's 2-0. Landro looking at Amalfitano and Duncan at first.
This is your run and hit situation if you so choose, because he's got to throw the strike and you got speed, and if Landro doesn't like it, take it and take your chances on the stolen base. It's a decision Lasorda will have to make. They're just trying to settle force down. That's not like him. He usually has good control, does pitch down, but not usually this wild.
Landro, by the way, is not a patient hitter. In other words, if he's up there free, he rarely walks and he rarely strikes out. So let's see. He doesn't go, and he takes a strike. So they must have put the handcuffs on him.
They did. They had him taken all the way, which is a tip-off on the way Lasorda is going to play this game. But he's not going to do anything until he gets one strike on him. And, of course, now you got manager's delight, 2-1.
Well, we'll see if Duncan is going. 2 balls, 1 strike.
I'd have to say he is.
I would, too. And especially, as we said, 4 for 4 in running against the Cardinals. Of course, Kenny Landro, the biggest night he had this year. He had 2 home runs here in a game, one of them inside the park. There goes Duncan, and the ball is hit foul down the left field line, out of play.
Oddly enough, he had a real good jump, and yet Amalfitano at third base not only gave him the green light to go, he was telling him, take a bigger lead, take a bigger lead. He gets a good jump. He's got 1, 2, 3. He had at least 3 steps before Force delivered the ball, and fouled off, but Amalfitano wanted him to take a bigger lead.
On that 2-1 count, your first thought is, did Landro swing at a strike?
It was in the outside part of the plate. It was certainly something he could reach. Now, he's tough on that ball outside because he can plug the gap in left center field, which we've seen him do.
So Landro with the count 2 balls and 2 strikes. Duncan at first, nobody out, and we're just starting game 5. There he goes, and it's hit foul again. Out of play. Jack Clark, Tommy Herr, Ozzie Smith, Terry Pendleton, Tito Landrum, Willie McGee, and Cesar Cedeno in the outfield.
Now, we know that Duncan does have the bad legs, spiked and fouling one off, and when he cranks it up, he gets going pretty good, but on the foul ball, you could see him slow up and say, oh, man, this is not right.
He said after the game last night that he didn't think he could play today. So I think he answered a little pep talk from Tommy Lasorda.
Lasorda probably told him, we don't want you to think, we just want you to play.
2-2.
I think in that interview when he called it a meeting, I think that was a euphemism.
A meeting. Landro followed by Guerrero. Duncan goes. Fastball hit the straightaway center. They're trying to decoy Duncan, but McGee makes the catch. The throw will come to first anyway, but he got back. Herr and Smith tried to decoy him on a ground ball.
I think if one of them would have done it, they might have been able to get him. Now, Duncan gets off pretty good. Now, both Herr and Smith, now he's looking around and wondering what's going on. You can see that both of them were deking, and then he was able to pick up the ball.
And still he made McGee, and the other deke was Jack Clark, who stood at first base as if he was thinking about San Francisco, and the throw was en route to him, a one-hopper, and Duncan got back with Manny Mota hollering to him in 2 languages at least. All right, here's Guerrero hitting .385. 3 RBIs. And he hits a double play ball. Ozzie to Herr to Clark. And at the end of half an inning, Dodgers nothing. Here's the Cardinal lineup to face Valenzuela. Willie McGee in the leadoff spot in center field, and Ozzie Smith at short. Tommy Herr hitting third at second, and Jack Clark in the cleanup spot at first. Cesar Cedeno in right, with Tito Landrum in left, Terry Pendleton at third. The catcher is Darrell Porter, and the pitcher Bob Ford.
Defensively, Guerrero, Landro, and Marshall. Landro the key man in that defense, of course. Madlock, Duncan, Sachs, and Brock. Socia behind the plate. And Fernando on the mound against Willie McGee, and he did a pretty good job on him by throwing him a lot of breaking balls in L.A. and actually with 2 strikes throwing that ball out of the strike zone low and getting him.
So Fernando, who has not won in his last 5 starts and has won just 1 in his last 8 starts, so he has not been himself at all, and he has 1 ball and no strikes to Willie McGee, hitting .222 in the series. Naturally, he won game 1 in the league championship series, but we were giving you figures that apply to the regular season. He has been way off. One reason, he pitched 11 scoreless innings in a magnificent duel with Dwight Gooden, and it would seem as if he went downhill after that. Plus, of course, he piled up a lot of innings. That's a strike. Remember, we pointed it out in the first game. He will normally pitch from the third base side of the rubber, but if he is cheating and he wants to get the runner, he'll stretch from the first base side of the rubber. 3-1 to Willie McGee. It would be a dangerous way for Fernando to begin the day, to let McGee start it off, because that'll wake this crowd up immediately. Fouled away. 3-2. You know, we were talking about Whitey Herzog last night, and we mentioned the fact that he told us he was irate at the press because they had taken a quote that he uttered in May about the Dodgers being horse bleep and living in bleep, and then they used it in October, and the reporters say not so. It is a case of faulty memory, to say the least. Check swing. No swing, says Crawford.
McGee is described on defense as being able to turn doubles into singles and outs, and on offense able to turn a walk into a double or a triple with the stolen base. And Fernando really flirting with danger as we watch him deliver with walking McGee.
So now you have Ozzie Smith coming up with Tommy Herr and Jack Clark to follow.
And Mike Scioscia really looking for some help.
Scroogey missed, and we'll try and watch Fernando and see just where he positions himself on the rubber. He's still in a normal spot. McGee right foot on the rubber on the AstroTurf. And Fernando hasn't made a good pitch yet.
There's no doubt that it's upsetting when you get to McGee's or Vince Coleman's on, you break your concentration. He has not made a good pitch, as Vince said, and you can see Scioscia checking with the bench in case they want to pitch out. He gets it from Malfitano, but Valenzuela's control is not that good. He can forget about pitching out. He's got to get some strikes.
He is not nearly the pitcher that I remember in June, July, and August. I think the innings have really taken their toll. He worked 272 innings. He allowed way over 200 hits. He walked over 100, and he had a poor defense, which meant he had to face extra hitters all the time. And he's behind 3-0.
Mike Scioscia really trying to fight for that strike as he tried to frame it to give his pitcher some help. Didn't get it.
3 balls and no strikes to Ozzie Smith. Willie McGee at first, nobody out, no score, and he's missing by plenty. For Jerry Royce and Bob Welch, they had their shortest outings of the year in the league championship series against the Cardinals. And Fernando is in trouble immediately on 2 walks, and Lasorda saying, why isn't he getting it over the plate?
And you got to be careful here, because you just can't take for granted that Herr's going to take that first pitch. You're going to have to make sure he gives you a good hard pitch on that first one.
Tommy hitting .357. He has a hit in each of the 4 LCS games. But the Rabbits are aboard, McGee and Smith, and of course the Cardinals, having stolen 310, they're always a threat to go, and especially double steals. Sachs trying to bird dog. Willie McGee, for instance, has stolen third base 4 out of 6 times.
And to cut down that lead by McGee, you can see not that close. The ultimate, of course, is to pick the runner off, but you want to cut him down a couple steps and maybe make that play at the plate.
And of course, the specter that haunts any Dodger pitcher now is the memory of Bob Welch turning to throw to second and throwing the ball into right center field.
They're really shading him as we look at Welch. They're shading her way over in right center field. He's got a lot of room in left center field. Now they're moving Landreau a bit over, a little more towards center.
0-1 the count to Tommy Herr. Ground ball down the line. Here comes McGee. They're going to hold Ozzie, and he ran right through the stop sign and scored. Hal Lanier tried to hold up Ozzie, and he went right through him like it was a bad dream.
It's a two-base hit for Tommy Herr, and Lanier, with nobody out, trying to hold him up. And Ozzie just ran right through him. The relay, though, had nothing on it, no chance in the world. And luckily, Fernando was backing him up. Now watch Ozzie go right through that stop sign. Hands were straight up by Lanier. Pulls him back here, but Ozzie, he just kept coming. Fernando, a good play backing it up because the relay throw was very high.
I'll be honest, I haven't seen Fernando make a good pitch yet. Not one.
That was a breaking ball that Herr hit, and it really didn't have that much bite to it.
Well, here's Jack Clark, and it's a strike. Tommy Herr now has 5 hits in the league championship series. That was his 6th, and that includes 4 doubles and a home run. And there it goes. He threw it into center field. And the specter has come back to life.
Tommy Herr in his press conference, as we look at Bob Welch, who threw one in the center field but threw it to the first base side of second. This throw is not even close. I mean, Sachs can't even get close to getting a glove on it.
I don't know what they would have done if they hadn't practiced so much.
Tommy Herr said that clubs make outlandish plays against us, trying to pick us off, and we've seen it twice here in this series. The Dodgers have practiced it and still threw it into center field.
The infield is up except for Madlock. Lined at Madlock, and he goes to his knees prayerfully that it didn't kill him. Whoa.
Right at him. Hot corner. That proves it. Down he goes. He said, luckily I saw it.
That's a Thanksgiving catch. Either that or an imitation of Toulouse-Lautrec. And it is 2-0 Cardinals. 1 out. Tommy Herr is at third. Cedeno the hitter, and I still haven't seen Fernando make a good pitch. I don't know if he had trouble warming up. I don't know if he has arm trouble, but he's not pitching right. 0-1. Well, we mentioned at the start of the game, I had the feeling that this one game certainly was going to be the battle of the bullpen. I didn't think it was going to be a battle so early.
Well, you can start to maybe say, well, rain delay here, rain delay there, but they knew in plenty of time when the game would start,
Oh,
so
sure.
I can't put any of the blame on that.
Oh, no. No delays, no excuses. Screwball, and he turned that one over fairly well. One of the things he is not doing, he is not able to change the speeds of the screwball for strikes. And he's been missing way outside and high with his fastball. 1-1. Now he missed inside with the fastball. So remember, he opened up, he walked McGee and Smith, and he wasn't really close. Tommy Herr doubled in 2. Clark almost killed Madlock for the out. The error allowing Herr to go to third on the pickoff. Paul Runge is the plate umpire. That's a much relaxed Fernando a good 45 minutes ago, leaning on Len Matuzik's shoulder. He needs to lean on a lot of shoulders right now as he is down 2-0 in the first inning. Two balls, two strikes. Foul tipped and held. So Cedeno strikes out, and it means the right field platoon for the Cardinals are 3 for 15 and only 1 RBI. One of the heroes of last night's onslaught with 4 hits, Tito Landrum. And as we said, when you look at that name, you think it is of Spanish origin for sure. He was born in Joplin, Missouri. Scroogey missed. On deck, Terry Pendleton. There's a screwball, and the bottom dropped out of that one. 1-1.
That is the best one he's thrown. He's thrown a couple fastballs that had some zing to him. And I say the last year or so, Vin, he's been using that screwball really to bait the hitters, make them look for it, and bust it with that fastball.
The big difference with him is his control. In other words, his first couple of years, he lived on the corners. He lived on the black. The last 2 years, he's walked over 100 batters each year. Now, that's not a guy who's doing a good paint job.
Unless you're overpowering, you have to stay on that corner.
High fly ball to Landro. So he's out of it cheaply enough. 2 runs, 1 hit, 1 error, 1 left. At the end of an inning, Cardinals 2, the Dodgers nothing. Madlock, Marshall, and Socia coming up. Game 3, first inning. Bob Welch on the mound. Vince Coleman at second, and the pickoff throw goes over the head of Paul Runge into right center field. Deja vu today. Game 5. Fernando almost hits her and throws it away.
In that first pickoff play, you saw a lot of daylight between the shortstop and the runner, so the play was there. I mean, you had to throw the ball because that's what you make it up many times in an ad-lib play. This one, the second one, though, was even worse than the first one to this extent. And the second baseman is coming over, and to the shortstop side of the bag, there's no way that Sachs is going to get it. If you're going to make the throw, you got to throw it from the middle of the bag towards first base where Sachs is coming from.
The only thing I'm surprised Sachs didn't do is climb on top of Herr's back as if to catch it, really, and try and knock him down so he couldn't advance. Line drive at Pendleton. So each third baseman has had his hands burned, and we have 1 out.
No time to think here. Just put the glove up, and there it is. He is really showing some great reflexes.
Number 5, right fielder Mike Marshall.
1 away, Mike Marshall, who has 4 hits, hitting .250, 2 RBIs. He took 2 to very deep last night, you might remember, leading off. He sent McGee to the warning track on what would have been a home run at Dodger Stadium, but just a long out here. High chopper over the mound, back a second. There's Ozzie.
Right in the middle of that play, he knew he had to get something on it. You could see him in midair kind of kick his body in gear. And that's what made the difference. Now, watch him right here. Right there. He just, when he gets up, he kind of gives it a little push, and that's where he makes the play.
It's really remarkable to see a man leave the ground and throw that hard. Now, both feet are going to be off the ground when he makes the throw.
See him hook it in gear?
Yeah.
You could really see him almost shift that body.
Well, what do you expect from a guy who has won the Gold Glove for shortstops every year this decade? And with 2 down, here is Mike Socia. It is 2-0 St. Louis. We're in the second inning.
What body control. What amazing body control he has.
He is the one ball player, Ozzie Smith, when you refer to him as an acrobat, it is the truth. He literally, and of course you saw him do the backflip. He is truly an acrobat.
The only other thing in sports is when those guys go up for rebounds in basketball. You see them go up, but they're supposed to come down, law of gravity, and they don't.
2-1. That's a strike. Socia didn't see too much of Bob Forsch. He was 2 for 2. I have a feeling, and of course it's just me on the sideline, but Socia has been swinging the bat lately as if he is tired. And he breaks his bat and loops it into right field for a base hit. He will gladly take it. That makes him 3 for 3 against Bob Forsch. And it was a broken bat single.
Batting seventh, number 9, first baseman Greg Brock.
Keep in mind that with Brock, they really have been changing speeds, and he's been way out in front. How many times do you change speeds before you get burned?
And for a young hitter with all the adrenaline pumping, I would think that the off-speed pitch is the one that kills you because you can't wait to swing. You can't wait to hit it.
Well, I wouldn't change my thinking. I'd say I'm going to keep throwing it until he proves he can hit it.
He's hitting 111.
What a pitch that was, right on that outside corner.
Bob Forsch trying to give the Cardinals a lead from down 2 to up 3-2. There's the off-speed curveball. Strike 2. Greg Brock has had 18 at-bats going back to 83 with the Phillies and the Cardinals. Socia at first. He has just 1 hit in those 18 at-bats. It was the home run at Dodger Stadium. Socia's not going anywhere. Ball 1.
2 strikes. Lasorda gives him that purple light. If you run, I'll kill you.
I'll get you. Clark standing behind him so he can get a little range in case Brock gets a ball to pull. 2-0 St. Louis, second inning. And he's going now on a high number back to Forsch. That's that. No runs, 1 hit. The play by Ozzie is a big one at the end of an inning and a half. 2-0 St. Louis. Don't forget tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Bob Costas, Tony Kubek, in the American League Championship game number 6, the Kansas City Royals and the Toronto Blue Jays. When you look at the top of the second inning, you realize what can happen in this fascinating game called baseball. Madlock hit a BB right at third. Marshall lost a hit by Ozzie Smith, and that's hit into right field. And Pendleton now, let's see if he turns on the heat. He's going for 2, and he has a double. And Fernando is in trouble again.
Batting 8, number 15, catcher Darrell Porter.
So Terry Pendleton, who was the most valuable player in our judgment in Game 3, opens up with a double, and that'll bring up Darrell Porter.
And he is strictly a pull hitter. He should hit that ball to the right side. They have swung way around. Sachs is deep at second base. So the ground ball, they will pick up a base with an out.
Porter hitting .222, 2 for 9 in the series. Ball 1. Give you an idea of lifetime. Darrell Porter is hitting almost .390 against Valenzuela. So he is not a hitter that Fernando wants right now. 2-0. After Porter comes Bob Forsch. And remember, we told you Forsch is a good hitter. He has 8 career home runs, and he hit a home run this year against Atlanta. Although if he comes up, they'd probably have him bunting.
And he took batting practice and bunting practice yesterday in the cage.
Boy, I tell you one thing, it's like looking at a fake Rembrandt right now. 3-0.
You really don't get the feeling he's in command.
No, not at all.
He stands on the mound as if to say, I'm king of the hill, come get me. He doesn't give you that feeling.
He's in a lot of trouble. Fernando has walked 4 in 1 inning plus. Lasorda is beside himself.
Batting 9, Number 31.
No one going down to the
Senior
Dodger
Bob
bullpen yet.
Ford.
I can't believe Lasorda said, and then the camera left him. And that's how it started. I can't believe.
Really charging hard at first base.
Rock ready to come in. Force is bunting. Got it down. Fernando has to go to first.
See a ball like that, you have to laugh when you say you can't punt on artificial surface. That was just absolutely perfect. This Fernando delivering the ball didn't look straight up that time. Force knows he has to get it to third base. Fernando's the only man can make that play, and his only play is to first base. Just a perfectly executed bunt.
And Socia was hollering all the while. There was no doubt. Go to first. So second and third. The infield is halfway up. And Willie McGee, who walked and scored in the first inning. Screwball. 0-1.
Here's where he's got to let out a notch and go for that strikeout. He was able to get McGee in Los Angeles. He did it with screwballs and a breaking ball low and inside. He's got to go for it here.
McGee has struck out 4 times in the series. 0-2. Joey Amalfitano telling Kenny Landreau to come up and shade just a tad towards right center. 0-2 to McGee. Foul back.
And that's the spot that got him in Los Angeles, and it's really confidence in your catcher's ability to block that low pitch, the one that gets into the dirt. And Socia was right down there. I mean, Valenzuela got to keep that ball just exactly where he threw it that time.
Pendleton down the line from third. Porter at second. 0-2. Got him.
Showed me something on that series, Vin.
That's the best bit of pitching he has done, and it's the 5th time that McGee has struck out in the series.
It was a breaking ball. You can see him turn it over low inside, and Willie couldn't get it.
Now Ozzie Smith, who walked in the first inning. 0-1. It's hard to believe that the leading hit getter for the Cardinals after 4 games would be Ozzie Smith, and for the Dodgers, Steve Sax. But that's the way it's worked out. Ozzie with 7 hits. Pops it in the air. Duncan out. Guerrero and Landreau. Duncan. And Fernando really dodges a bullet, and at the end of 2, the Cardinals 2, the Dodgers nothing. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. Game 5 of the 1985 National League Championship Series is brought to you by RCA, creators of video technology that excites the senses. And by United Airlines. You're not just flying, you're flying the friendly skies.
It's a discussion between Madlock and Lasorda. I wonder what that's all about.
You weren't in the meeting, Tommy said. That's the only thing I read. You weren't in the meeting.
Hitting off and batting 8.
It didn't appear as much of an argument.
It was a discussion, more or less.
Yep. The lights are on in the 3rd inning, 2-0 St. Louis.
They seem to be all in agreement as to what's wrong. The Dodgers, it is.
Steve Sax followed by Fernando Valenzuela, and then Mariano Duncan. 2-0 Cardinals in the 3rd. Strike. Steve Sax is a very bad ad for home cooking, but at the same time he's a bachelor. Ground ball to third. He is hitting 100 points better away from home. 1 down. Fernando coming out. And Bob Forsch, we were talking about the second inning. It has gone by virtually unnoticed, but just look at it. Bill Madlock hit a line drive at Pendleton. Marshall hit a ball up the middle that might have been a base hit, but Ozzie Smith made a great play. And Socia singled to right. But instead of the Dodgers having an inning and at least a run, they came up with nothing. 0-1. So once again, the Cardinal glove figures prominently. Fernando, about the best Dodger hitting pitcher, pops it up. And it'll be Tito Landrum.
I would say it's fairly simple, Vin, to know when Forsch is in trouble. If he gets the ball up, I mean, start to get to the phone, because he has to pitch down, and he has been there in all his pitches that he's made. He hadn't gotten the ball above the belt yet.
Only 2 fly balls recorded, one by Landro, this one by Valenzuela, and of course that blur that Madlock hit at Pendleton. A key performance in the first inning was Mariano Duncan opening up with a walk, and if the Dodgers had an opportunity to seize the initiative, it was there. But Duncan stayed at the plate. Remember, the count went 2-0 to Landro, eventually 2-2 to Landro, and eventually Landro a harmless fly ball, and then Guerrero hit into a double play. Ground ball to Clark. See you later. The Dodgers tiptoe through the third at the end of 2½. The Cardinals 2, the Dodgers nothing. Herr, Clark, and Cedeno. Remember years ago they had one called the Faces of Eve? Let's look at the faces of Fernando. From the smile to the intent concentration, to the sign of trouble, to having allowed 2 runs in the first inning. And now ready to go to the third, having dodged a couple of bad moments in the second inning. He's down 2-0 and facing the heart of the Cardinal lineup. Tommy Hurd, Jack Clark, and Cesar Cedeno. Thinking about a bunt, he had Madlock on the move, and the count 0-1. Tommy Hurd hitting .400, including a home run and 5 RBI. For good measure, a stolen base. He's been magnificent. A 1-2 hopper to Duncan. 1 away. The batter will be Jack Clark.
Jack Clark.
Clark maybe hit the hardest ball of the game. That was the ball he hit that Madlock caught dropping to his knees.
One pretty good last night, got under it. It really sounded. It had that home run sound, but hit under it. He's been getting his ribs. If he gets a hold of one, he'll pull those seats in.
That's a check swing for a strike. He didn't foul it. That ball just came out of Socia's mitt, and first base umpire Jerry Crawford indicated swing. So the count 0-1. One ball, 1 strike.
Clark never even reacted. Most guys would have at least taken a dirty look or turned around. It's like, okay, it's a strike, so what?
He's a man just going to work. The 1-1 pitch. I love that summation he gave, and we used it last night, about this Cardinal ball club. It is a club of drag racers and funny cars. I'm just a stocker. 1 and 2.
He could take that T out of there.
He came inside with the fastball, but got it too far, and the count 2-2. Fernando's making a lot of pitches, having already walked 4 in 2 innings. He's made 42 pitches. And coming off a season that took a tremendous toll, there's no way he can get beyond that 7th inning, if he can get that far. Not throwing as many pitches as he has. Strike on the corner. Fernando's 3rd strikeout.
Right fielder, Cesar Cedeno.
Of course, that's another thing people forget about. Strikeouts are a pain in the arm. I mean, they look good in the paper, but you have to make at least 3 pitches to get the guy.
As a hitter, they paying you somewhere else.
Here's Cedeno. He struck out in the first inning. Strike. Screwball.
Lasorda says he doesn't put much faith in counting pitches, but when he gets over 100, Fernando, he starts to get concerned, and Ron Peranowski's next to him. They're watching him very closely.
0-1. Peranowski was talking about the ball moving. Foul back. If I caught it, it was kind of a sideways shot, but it was something about it. The ball keeps moving, he'll be all right. But it was almost said tight-lipped and in a whisper. 2-0 St. Louis, third inning. 0-2 the count of Cedeno. Fernando trying to retire the side for the first time. Ball 1. Whitey Herzog. And we mentioned before, we think Whitey has a lapse of memory. There are several writers who were there. One, Hal Bodley, recorded his statement that he said the other day about the Dodgers being horse bleep, except for their good pitching, and the other quote about living in bleep. So it suddenly became a question of Whitey's faulty memory and the integrity of the U.S. sporting press. 2-2. High pop foul, back of first, down the line, and Brock makes the play right at home plate. So for the first time, the Birds are quiet, and at the end of 3, the Cardinals 2, the Dodgers 0. Fourth inning, 2-0 in favor of St. Louis. There's Lou Brock, who threw out the first ball. Of course, the Cardinals are really throwing their best at the Dodgers. Last night, it was Bob Gibson and Stan Musial, and today they settled for Lou.
All Hall of Famers, they give them to you. And Cool Papa Bell's watching this game, Vin. I just had to mention him. Cool is so friendly to everybody, and not quite as strong as he'd like to be, but I know he's enjoying it.
Hope so. Kenny Landreau had a key at bat in the first inning after Duncan had walked and flied out. And lines it to center, and that'll be a base hit. So now Guerrero, Madlock, and Marshall coming up, with the Cardinals leading 2-0, top of the 4th. Guerrero grounded into a double play in the first inning. Pete with 3 RBIs. He hit a home run against every team in the National League this year, but he has not been the same kind of hitter, although he's hitting for average. He has not been able to attack the ball the way that produced 33 home runs during the regular year. He's had 1 home run since September the 3rd. Ball 1. I remember we pointed it out earlier, and Joe was mentioning Forsch has to keep the ball down, but Guerrero is a low ball hitter.
But I'm sure he's of that school, strength against strength. He's going to have to prove he can hit my low pitch.
Breaking ball lifted to the graveyard unless it carries out, and on the track is Willie McGee. And that's another one that's out at Dodger Stadium. Small consolation to Guerrero.
When a pitcher comes into a ballpark, he looks at one part of the ballpark and says, which is going to be my outfield, where I can get the most outs. Obviously, here in center field, that's where you want him to hit that ball. I know when you played in the Polo Grounds, you say things like, man, if I'd have hit that in St. Louis or Evans Field, you don't get the same pitches that you get there.
Exactly. And there are a few raindrops coming down, so a couple of umbrellas are popping open. Raincoats put on, and here's Madlock. Madlock lined out to Terry Pendleton in the second inning. Madlock in his career is hitting over 300 against fours with 1 home run. Landreau, the base runner. The Cardinals forced a lot of balks, as you can imagine. They forced the opposition into 28 balks. There Landreau bluffs. Interestingly enough, in the 12 games between the Dodgers and the Cardinals, there was 1 balk called, and it was against the Cardinals. It was against Neil Allen. Kenny Landreau, the runner at third, was balked home.
Clark reminded him, take a look at Landreau. 2-0 score. He's liable to run. You can't take him for granted.
2-0. He goes, and so does the ball. High drive into left field and gone. And Madlock wears out Force, and the Dodgers have tied the Cardinals.
Quite a contrast in the reaction of the fans on home runs that are hit here, and that's pretty. You expect that. Madlock got the ball up, and he just hit it right over that left field fence. That wasn't hooking like that other one he hit.
So we have a 2-2 tie in the 4th. Watch Kenny Landreau when he sees where the ball's going.
Let that little boy in him out that time, didn't he?
And how? Here's Mike Marshall. Ball 1. So Whitey Herzog sees a 2-0 lead go down the drain. 2-2 in the 4th. A little more rain coming down. Rain drops. It is no reason to stop the game yet. 2-0. So the umbrellas begin to appear. And he missed low with the fastball. And the Cardinals send up a warning signal. Mike Rourke is on the telephone. Get somebody ready down there. 3-0. And he's aboard. That's the second walk given up by starting pitcher Bob Forge. Down in the bullpen, Ken Daly, the left-hander, answers the call, and he'll be first man up as Rourke goes out to the mound.
This is his best combination as far as hit and run plays are concerned, too, because we've said it so many times. Socha can handle that bat.
By the way, one of the big topics of discussion was going to be Whitey Herzog's selection for the starting pitcher for Game 6. Before the game today, he had both Joaquin Andujar and Danny Cox throw in the bullpen. And then evidently the Cardinals have announced it will be Joaquin Andujar against Oral Hershiser in Game 6. So Daly heating up. Socha followed by Brock. And I would think Brock is the key for Daly to get ready. 2-2, 4th inning, 1 out. With Marshall at first, you have a hit and run batter in Socha.
They're going to be looking for something.
There he goes, and they pitch out, and now they throw back, and he gets it because of the bad throw. So they wanted to play hit and run. Porter pitched out and then almost threw it into right field.
The rhythm really broke. Marshall's going, then he sees the pitch out his way outside, and back he goes. They would have had him, but the throw is a bad one.
Reminds you of when Mike Socha had his runner picked off and threw it into right field. That one almost went down the line.
Let me do it again.
There he goes. And then he goes back again. And
he
now
tipped him.
they're calling interference. They score. Darrell Porter tipping Mike Socha's bat. And the Dodgers get a big break, and Whitey Herzog will talk to Paul Runge.
He jumped out of there the first time, and it was awful close. This time, he tipped his bat.
So 2 pitch outs in a row on 2 possible hit and run plays, and the Dodgers wind up smelling like a rose as Darrell Porter will draw an error for interference.
Look at him come up. He's way up there. Pitch out, and Mike calls it right away. Watch Scioscia.
Yeah, you can't act that quickly.
No, he jumped way out there. He was anxious on that pitch out, a double pitch out. They had it right both times. Marshall did a pretty good job of base running there. He
sure
started
did.
and got back.
So now here is Brock. Off speed, hit down the line, foul. Take another look at that interference call.
He's out far enough, but he's up too close, and here comes Whitey Herzog.
I tell you what, remember I said Ken Daly was warming up, and I thought he was warming up for Greg Brock, and Herzog let Forsch make 1 pitch. That could have been a tremendous mistake. Brock takes him deep and foul, and now they're going to bring in Ken Daly. I couldn't figure out why Daly was up if he was going to let Greg Brock come up to the plate, and he dodged a bullet, did Whitey Herzog. Whitey Herzog is only human, and I think the following sequence would show you why. He's up at the plate arguing with Paul Runge about the interference. He has a left-hander in the bullpen, Ken Daly, and I'm sure he had Daly ready to come in to pitch to Greg Brock. But he was so hot with Runge, he walked back to the dugout, and he let his pitcher, the right-hander, Bob Forsch, hang a curveball to Greg Brock. And Brock took it downtown, but foul. And then Whitey, as if his wits came back to him, said, "Holy mackerel, what am I doing?" And he went back out and brought in Daly. Now, I mean, he might tell me I'm full of beans, but it's a reasonable thought.
It is reasonable, and you can carry it, I think, a step farther. What about the coaches? Somebody could have said, "Hey, Whitey, you want him to pitch to Brock?"
Well, Brock will play no more today. Enos Cabell comes off the bench to hit for him. He had 1 shot at Whitey, and he got a hanging curve at that, but he pulled it foul. What a maddeningly wonderful game this is. Oh, it's great. All right, 2 on, 1 out, and here is Cabell. Enos Cabell hitting 100. He's 1 for 10.
First ball hitter.
And pretty much of a ground ball hitter. In the dirt. He waved the runners and they didn't go. So Cabell waved them over. But the runners held. You don't have that much speed out there. Marshall at second, Scioscia at first. Watch Cabell now.
Actually, Scioscia was actually halfway to second base. He really had a big jump. Mike wasn't quite as aggressive as Scioscia.
Now
Marshall.
That's going to be a key play on a ground ball. If the runners move over, then the Cardinals play halfway or even up.
He's not sure. You can see he was undecided. He didn't get a good view of that ball, and only because it was in front of him, because they teach you if the ball's in front of the catcher and he blocks it, don't take off. And Marshall did not get that good a view.
Now if he hits into a double play, that's been a big play. Ground ball to third. Pendleton to her. How do you do? Can you believe this game? All you have to do is watch closely. Guaranteed you'll see something. Build and build, and there it was.
The double play is made on the pivot. Watch her. He gets a good ball from Pendleton, but he gets out of the way. But watch as he throws. His arm is almost pulled, and it goes to the right field side. But Scioscia doesn't even touch him. This is a great shot. And watch how Hurd just gets over him. Beautiful pivot.
So there was a great deal going on in the top of the 4th. Now let's see what's in the bottom of the 4th with Tito Landrum way out in front of it. Landrum with 4 hits last night, 0 for 1 today. Is he impressive so far? Screwball grounded to third. Cabell is now over at first. One away. The batter will be Terry Pendleton. So Bill Madlock's 2-run home run gets the Dodgers even. And we're 2-2, bottom of the fourth. Pendleton doubled to right in the second inning. Darrell Porter walked. Bob Force sacrificed. And then the key out. Fernando struck out McGee. Ground ball to the left to Duncan. 2 down. Fernando now has retired 8 in a row since the walk.
Catcher Darrell Porter.
And here's Darrell Porter. Porter walked in the second inning. And as we said, he handles Fernando pretty well, hitting almost .390 against him lifetime. That's not handling him well, that's manhandling him well. In there, mean off-speed screwball. You expect that screwball to a right-handed batter, but boy, to throw it in on the hands to a left-hander, that's mean.
That takes perfect control, because if you miss, you're in deep trouble.
1-1.
The reason I say that is you have to start that screwball in the middle of the plate, because it's going to break towards the hitter and has to break inside. And if it doesn't break, there'll be a few seats that'll be broken.
And a light rain begins to fall again. And got the corner. 2-2.
Nothing else. He's got Porter thoroughly confused, because that's the second one on the inside corner he didn't think was a strike.
Ball 3. On deck, Ken Daly. Two tie. Bottom of the fourth inning. 2 out, bases empty. And he walks Porter a second time. And of course, that's a big break for the Cardinals. Even if Daly makes the last out, you get him out of the way, and you start the 5th inning with leadoff man Willie McGee.
Pitcher Ken Daly.
It's a breaking ball. He's going for the strikeout here, and it's just too low.
Ken Daly, who came here in the deal for Ken Oberkfell and has done a fine job. Ball 1. Part of that bullpen by committee that Whitey has. And for Daly, as the fates would have it, his first career major league save came the 9th of May against the Dodgers. It is interesting to look at the Cardinal bullpen. Daly, Lottie, and Worrell combined for 35 saves. Previously, they had a combined 1 save. 2-1 to Daly. Porter at first with 2 out. 2-2.
Cabell's going to play halfway now with the count 2-1.
Fouled off. 2-2 the count. Fernando trying to get his opposite numbers. Daly had 5 hits during the regular season. He went 2 for 5. And promptly bangs it up the middle.
Center fielder Willie McGee.
Fernando gave it a shot at it, but it was hit pretty well. Right back. He makes the grab, but it's hit good. The ball was well hit.
So now Fernando is really pitching backwards. He has to get McGee. He got 2 out, walked the number 8 hitter, gives the pitcher a base hit. McGee has walked and struck out.
He's been pitching him the same way, low inside.
1 ball, 1 strike. A 2-2 tie. The Dodgers bring Landro up about a half a dozen steps in center field. 1-1. Landro shading just a hair towards right center. Screwball, 1-2.
He's just looking straight up. You can see him take his eye off the ball as he starts to swing. The head is popping up on that pitch. He doesn't seem to be able to pick up the pitch quite as well against Valenzuela. And he got him low inside the last time. Let's see what he does. There it is.
Got him again. So Fernando using Willie McGee as an escape hatch. The Cardinals leave 2, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Game 5 of the 1985 National League Championship Series is brought to you by Electric Shave. Electric Shave does for an electric razor what lather does for a blade. And by GTE, advancing technology in telecommunications and electrical products. 5th inning at Busch Stadium. Game 5, all tied 2-2.
Lou Brock, Ernie Banks in the cap. Good day to play 2 for Ernie in the pink sweater. Never got to play in a World Series. Just shows you. It's a thrill every ball player should really have.
Especially a great one like that.
Yeah.
Strike to Steve Sachs, who grounded to third in the 3rd inning. Oh, 0-1. Sachs, Valenzuela, and Duncan against left-hander Ken Daly. Strike. Two runs, 3 hits, and 1 error on each side. The Cardinal error, the interference against Darrell Porter. The Dodger error, the throw by Valenzuela. He had him chasing that one 0-2.
Good curveball, overhand curveball.
Sachs with a half a dozen hits, hitting .429. And he chased it, and did you see where Porter was?
Same pitch that he fouled off, except that this was a little bit more outside. It was an overhand curveball. It looked like Sachs, he thought it might break and catch that outside corner, but Daly really snaps it off out of the strike zone. Get a good look at it on that super duper slow-mo, and look where Porter is. He catches that ball 1.5 feet outside.
There is a disturbance just behind the Dodger dugout, as you see Sachs, and many of the Dodgers are out of the dugout and pointing up, and I can only assume that somebody threw something.
Threw water at him. Some fan, they're going to point him out. It threw water.
Some brave man holding with both hands onto his anonymity. And the Dodgers trying to pick off the face in the crowd.
They got him.
Well, they'll send him to a rubber room, and we'll continue. So Sachs strikes out, evidently walking disconsolately over towards the Dodger dugout, and we assume then as he got to the dugout, there you can see something hit him, and he's furious, and he's ready to go up in the stands. And then Lasorda got furious at Sachs when Steve finally got back into the dugout. Charlie Strasser, one of the trainers, trying to grab him from the back. I hate to see the inmates run the asylum.
Oh, man. It turns into zoo parade when that happens.
So 1 out, and the batter will be Fernando Valenzuela. Strike. Fernando bailing out.
He's throwing a pretty good curveball as we look at Steve Sachs trying to settle down next to Bob Welch.
Lasorda really hollered at him like a father to a son to say, hey, you stay here. No risk injury. A little blooper on a broken bat to Ozzie Smith. 2 out.
Well, it's a no-win situation. He just struck out in a bad pitch. He knows, and now he gets hit with water, and that's the breaking point. He doesn't care. He doesn't really realize where he is, and now Lasorda and the usher grab him, and it's a no-win situation. What is he going to do if he gets up there? And
Lasorda really lectured him, and then Steve, somewhat chastened and somewhat wetter, sat down. It is at that stage of the National League Championship Series, Game 5. And everybody's getting a little tighter and tempers are getting shorter. There's Tommy chewing him out about the fact you have nothing to gain going up into the stands and everything to lose.
Nobody loves a fight better than Lasorda, especially when he was playing. But in this particular case, that was the wise move.
Here's Mariano Duncan. Lasorda's the only guy I know of who was in a fight in a ball game and was attacked by a teammate. Yeah, I swear. There were brothers. He was pitching to one brother, and the other brother was playing center field for Tommy's team, and he knocked the brother down at the plate.
Freeze brothers.
He went in to fight Augie, and George Freeze, but his center fielder, jumped Tommy, and the count is 0-2 on Duncan.
Jerry Crawford calls it at first base. Here's a look at it. What do you think? Good call.
0-2 to Duncan. 2-2 tie, top of the 5th. 1-2. So Duncan, in his 2 trips to the plate, hitting left-handed against Force, a much better hitter from this side of the plate, but not hitting a lick in the series. Less than 100. Whoa, just missed. I don't know how you could take that pitch.
You're just completely fooled, and what you have to do now is act cool, like you took it all away knowing it.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do.
Kind of turn, look at the umpire, and say, had it all away.
Had it all away. Had it in the sights all the way, but you just can't pull the trigger. That was really a good pitch.
You got all the deuces you want. They're as wild as they can be. Fouled away. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, and a 2-2 tie in the 5th.
Now he took that other pitch and swung at this one, was up in his eyes. So there's the difference.
That's his strength.
That's his strength.
Look at all those 2s. You could bust a lot of dealers.
Wrong.
Yeah, wrong.
You think you can bust a lot of dealers.
Oh. Busted bat and a ground ball to Penelon. So the Dodgers are out in order in the 5th, and Daly broke 2 bats. And at the end of 4 1/2, a 2-2 tie. Bottom of the 5th inning under gray weepy skies in St. Louis, but we got a dandy, a 2-2 tie. Ozzie Smith, Tommy Herr, and Jack Clark. 0-1. There you can see Vince Coleman in street clothing on the crutches directly behind Whitey Herzog. Vince was kind enough and come up and pay us a visit. 0-2. So Coleman, by his very presence, I'm sure, helping to inspire his teammates. A drive to left field. Guerrero started in, makes the play. 1 away. With 1 out, Tommy Herr, who has doubled and grounded out. It could be a lot worse for Fernando. Herr was at 3rd with 1 out in the 1st inning and didn't score. The Cardinals had runners at 2nd and 3rd and 1 out in the 2nd inning, and McGee struck out and they didn't score. They had runners at 1st and 2nd in the 4th inning with 2 out, and McGee struck out. So the Cardinals have had ample opportunity to open it up. 0-1. Tommy has hit in 5 straight, all 5. And the Cardinals have left 5. That's a strike. 1-1. The Dodgers had a chance to get the jump. They had first and second and 1 out in the 4th inning. And Enos Cabell grounded into a double play. 1-1. Missed with the fastball.
I'll tell you one thing I have noticed, that Fernando seems to be calling the pitches more, and I mean by that, he's shaking Socha off a little bit more than I've ever noticed.
Well, he's pretty much his own man out there.
Well, a pitcher should be, but usually
No.
catch.
Yes, he's just shook him up twice. Off speed, fouled away. 2-2.
And I thought you were saying no, a pitcher shouldn't be his own man.
Oh, no. You know, let me ask you this. They've already seen him umpteen times. Could that be part of any pregame strategy? Like, you put anything you want down, and I'm going to shake off just to drive the hitter a little crazy.
Yeah, but you have to come back with the same pitch.
Oh, yeah,
Obviously,
eventually.
he's not doing that. I mean, once in a while you do, but you can't do that as a matter of course. You can't do it all the time.
Pitches are piling up on him. 73. 2-2. 1 out, 5th inning. A 2-2 tie. Fouled away down the right field line, back into the seats. Cardinals scored 2 in the 1st inning. Bill Madlock homered with Landreau aboard in the 4th to get the Dodgers even, and that's it. High drive into left field. Guerrero going to the track at the wall. He's got it. I have a feeling if this were a normal warm day in St. Louis, not a heavy damp day, that ball's out of here.
That could be, but Hurt really didn't drive that ball. He had already made a little bit of a weight shift because Fernando had taken a little bit off that pitch. He got it up where he didn't want to, but Hurt really didn't get into it. I mean, his hips didn't drive that ball, and that was the difference between going out and staying.
So with 2 out, here's Jack Clark. 0-1. Clark lined out to Madlock. That's the ball he hit. Madlock caught it and dropped to his knees. And then last time up, Jack struck out. 2-0.
Now look out if he gets his pitch. Here's the swing. Now watch the weight shift. He's already there, and now he's really coming around with the bat now. I mean, he really didn't drive the ball.
Considering the fact that Guerrero caught it at the wall.
I agree. I agree.
He didn't
with
drive it.
He did
He'd
not
hit it out of state.
If he drives it, he hits it in the seats. And if he throws a fastball to Clark's liking, 3-0.
Oh, yeah.
Watch this swing. You talk about damp air, and there won't be any left in the park.
3-0. And he got a fastball, but not in a spot that Jack felt he could drive. It was up a little on the outside part of the plate. 3-1. On deck, Cesar Cedeno. Line to right field, base hit. So Cedeno will be coming up with 2 out. Jack Clark at first and the Bird on the roof. Fernando's waiting for the organ to stop. So with 2 out in the 5th inning in a 2-2 tie, here is Cedeno. And immediately Fernando throws it away. And down to second base on the wild pitch goes Jack Clark.
That ball was about a 50-footer when he threw it. You could see him shake his head. Watch where this ball bounces. I mean, it is about 4 feet in front of home plate. It's not even close to Socha. Watch where it bounces now, and you see why Socha had such a tough time. That's in front of the plate. Hit off his wrist. He was trying to cradle it, but nothing you can do. You got to play hockey goalie on that one.
So it could be a very expensive wild pitch. Jack Clark at second with 2 out. And 1 ball, no strikes to Cedeno. 2 balls, no strikes. After Cedeno, Tito Landrum.
And he's getting behind these hitters, and you get behind power hitters, you're asking for it.
A 2-2 tie in the 5th inning. I can't believe he missed that one, and neither can he. He thought surely that was in there.
I can't believe Cedeno stood there like a statue, taking it all away. Tie ball game 2-2. What is he looking for? A base on balls?
Fernando, I'm sure, thought he was pinched on that pitch. And now they're going to walk him. They're going to say, never mind.
Look at Cedeno.
They're not going to pitch to him. They'll walk him intentionally. If he can take that 2-0 pitch and it's called ball 3, they're going to put him on and hope that they can get out of the inning against Landrum. For Fernando, 5 walks. This one ruled intentional. And here comes Landrum. Tito Landrum flied to center and grounded to third. 0 for 2. Fouled away.
High curveball. He got that up in his eyes, and no hitter with the tie-breaking run at second base going to let a high curveball get by, even if it might be out of the strike zone.
Runners at first and second. Jack Clark at second. Cesar Cedeno at first. 2 out. Bottom of the 5th. 2-2 tie. High bouncer down to Madlock, and he's right on the bag for the force play, and they're out of the inning. The wild pitch could very well have turned out to be a blessing, and at the end of 5, 2-2. For the first time here in 1985, we have a best 4 out of 7 league championship series. They'd be hanging off the rafters at this moment if this were game 5 to decide it, as it would in the past.
You got a little more breathing room now, and I think it's right that you should have more breathing room. You play 162 games, and it's decided now 4 out of 7, so the breathing room is really needed.
And you ought to remember, after all, you were involved in the very first when the St. Louis Cardinals of 1946 defeated the Brooklyn Dodgers 2-0 in the first playoff, so to speak. They didn't dress it up and called it League Championship Series in those days.
No, it was a playoff, and when the Dodgers lost it, you should have heard what Leo called it.
I could guess. Let's go back to the field. Ken Daly will be pitching to Kenny Landreau, Pedro Guerrero, and Bill Madlock. Landreau flied to center and singled to center. And you remember Madlock hit it out to get the game even. One ball and 1 strike. When Bob Welch made his start against Danny Cox, he went 4 innings. He is down in the pen loosening up. I think, however, he is just getting in some work. Slice foul out of play. Like Oral Hershiser, who threw in the bullpen last night. Hershiser figures to pitch game 6 against Andujar, and then Welsh would pitch game 7 if there be one.
That pitch before really sounded fast, Vin. I looked at Mike Brito, was 88. So that's how hard Mr. Daly's throwing.
1-2 to Landreau. Kenny doesn't see too much action against left-handers. The Dodgers were hoping to start him against John Tudor last night, but he has a tricky knee that is puffed up on him over the last couple of weeks, and he couldn't play last night. And he promptly strokes it, sinking in front of McGee. Base hit. So Landreau, with his 7th hit, is hitting over 500. And now you get Guerrero, and you also get the Cardinal bullpen moving around.
Left fielder Pedro Guerrero.
We have a chance. We'd like to remind our viewers we'll be selecting the NBC Light Beer from Miller Player of the Game at the conclusion of the ball game. Guerrero hit into a double play and then hit the ball very deep for a long out to center. And of course, this is the home of the long out to center. Ball 1. Big kid down in the bullpen, the pride of Arcadia, California, Todd Worrell, loosening up. Good fastball at the knees. Surprised Guerrero would take that pitch. It must have just fooled him. 1-1. 2-2, top of the 6th. Standing at first, Landreau, held on by Clark.
Watch that Landreau.
Daly's doing just that. Landreau's had pretty good numbers during the regular season. But of course, with Guerrero up there, you got some thunder. 1-2. Landreau stole 15 out of 20 and has stolen in double figures in each of his last 5 years. One and 2 to Pedro Guerrero, hitting .333 with 3 RBIs in the series. And on deck, Bill Madlock. Missed with that fastball, just inside.
Daly thought he had it. You could see him walk around that mound.
That was the same kind of pitch that was the 2-0 pitch that was called ball 3 to Cedeno that seemed to upset Fernando. So close. Landreau at first, nobody out. Time.
Daly does that. He's going to give Porter a chance to get those runners at second base because he is really freezing Landreau.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Guerrero. Nobody out in the 6th. The totals are identical. 2 runs, 4 hits, and 1 error for each side. And that's a little fly ball to right field. Cedeno is there. Coming up is Bill Madlock. You remember his last at bat?
Third baseman Bill Madlock.
Short, compact swing, much like Bob Horner. And here's Landreau's reaction. He was the base runner.
Madlock is not thought of as a home run hitter. He's a pure line drive hitter. Led the league in batting 4 times, but he's homered in 2 of his last 3 at bats. And as we told you, he hits Forsch very well. He was hitting .306 against Forsch, came up and hit a bullet at Terry Pendleton for an out, and then hit a 2-run home run to tie up the game in the 4th. Well, Forsh's history, he's now batting against Ken Daly.
He hits home runs, but you could put a play on with Madlock. He can handle that bat.
And Mike Marshall on deck. Ball one. 1-0. There goes Landreau, fouled away. 1-1 to count. So with a 4-time batting champ figuring to make contact, you put a hit and run play on. And it's interesting to point out, Madlock is the only right-handed batter to win the National League batting crown since Joe Torre hit .363 in 1971 for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Porter's another one of those catchers gets help from the bench as far as pitch outs are concerned. He was really checking over there.
1-1. Landreau holding, and there's a fly ball to right. Cedeno started back because it came off the end of the bat. So Ken Daly is doing a fine job. He has faced 6 batters. Remember, he came in and he got Cabell to hit into a double play, and then since then he's allowed just 1 hit. Now the batter is Mike Marshall. In that second inning, Madlock had lined out, and Marshall hit what looked like a base hit up the middle, and Ozzie Smith turned it into an out, and he walked last time out.
Talking about in his showdown game, Vin, you did bring up the point that it was going to be a battle of bullpens.
Yeah, you guess after about 4 games you figured. And Bob Welch, I'm watching him. I'm just wondering if he's not only throwing in between starts, but if they're thinking about getting an inning or so out of him. You see that happen all during the year, where a pitcher is going to throw in the bullpen in between starts, and a lot of times a manager will say, well, wait a minute, if you're going to throw in between starts, maybe you can give me an inning. And it could be the way Welsh is throwing down there that that's exactly what he's doing. And Todd Worrell is throwing in the Cardinal pen. Fastballs away, 2-0. It's been Forsh and Daly against Fernando, and we're 2-2 in the 6th.
I think Mike is just regrouping. He's got a 2-ball no strike count, and he's not what you would call a finesse hitter. He gets his pitch. He really takes a good cut. And right now, all kinds of meetings. Her and Porter wants to know what's going on. And I would say it's about this particular pitch. Marshall is he's just getting ready.
Well, Marshall, an extremely intense hitter, the most intense of any player on the Dodger club. Strikes out about once every 4 at bats, but he does have 4 hits and 2 RBIs so far in the series. 2-0. Fouled away. For the Cardinals, this figures to be Daly's last inning of work. Pendleton, Porter, and then Daly spot due up in the bottom of the 6th. 2-1. Fastball fouled away again. Boy, he's not finessing him. He's coming at him with all the heat he's got.
And neither is Mike Marshall finessing him. He is swinging and swinging to where he can drive that ball. Now, he's had 2 good swings, so if Lasorda wants to put a play on this particular pitch, that's okay, too. Then he'd have, if Landreau gets thrown out, Marshall would lead off the inning. So you got to be wary of Mr. Landreau over there at first base.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Ground ball. What a stop by Daly to get him.
Marshall robbed of another hit. Watch Daly's play here. And he's ready for the ball to come back, and backhands it. Down he goes. But he's got complete command of that play. Now it's an easy flip to first base. Good reaction.
So Marshall could have a perfect day with 2 singles and a walk. Instead, he is 0 for 2 because of the gloves of Smith and Daly. That's a strike to Pendleton, followed by Darrell Porter. And some sunshine is starting to come out here in St. Louis, we're happy to say. Pendleton has doubled and grounded out. Fouled away. 0-2. That's a welcome addition to what is turning out to be a dandy of a ball game. Game 5. Somebody gets hurt today, and we all move to California. One and 2. Bob Welch has done his throwing in the Dodger bullpen and sat down. We'll keep an eye on his activities. Ground foul right between the legs of Hal Lanier, and it remains 1-2 to Terry Pendleton.
Vin, you probably know it better than anybody because you've seen Fernando that much. We've talked about it. Say what you want, and he's not the Fernando that we both have seen, but yet he's taken him right into the 6th inning tied. And that's the sign of the good pitcher. You don't have that good stuff to battle your way in there, and that's just what he's done.
You can put that label on that we've been using all through the league championship series, a quality start. And he bounced that. 2-2. Fernando historically, as you see Darrell Porter on deck, has had his troubles in the 1st inning. And today was no different. He began by walking McGee and walking Ozzie Smith, and Tommy Hurd doubled in 2. The Dodgers got their 2 in the 4th inning, and now we're in the bottom of the 6th. Foul tipped and held. That will be strikeout number 5 for Fernando. His high this year, he struck out 14 Astros.
Catcher Darrell Porter.
Porter has walked twice, and Ken Daly is on deck. He has pitched very well, and evidently will stay in the game because Socia is due to lead off in the 7th inning for the Dodgers. There's Ken Daly, who came in with runners at 1st and 2nd, 1 out in the 4th. Got Enos Cabell to hit into a double play. But the key, remember, was the pitch in the dirt when Cabell told the runners to move to 2nd and 3rd. The runners did not heed the wave, and then Cabell hit into the double play. 0-2. Just off. 1-2. Foul back, and look at Porter. You think he was hacking?
That was another one of those nice high curveballs, and when they see that, the eyes really light up. And watch where the pitch is. It's up, and when he sees it, he's going to go to work on it. That's the kind of, you show the little leaguer and say, watch this swing, son, and then don't ever do it.
1-2. Half swing got him. Half a dozen strikeouts. A reminder tomorrow, Game 6 of the American League Championship Series from Toronto. Bob Costas and Tony Kubek will be there. Doyle Alexander and Bud Black are the pitchers. That'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Here is Daly. Remember, he singled sharply in the 4th inning. You know, I look at Fernando Valenzuela in front of crowds of 50-some-odd thousand, nationwide television, and beamed all over the world, as far as I know. And I think of a line written by an English golf writer named Bernard Darwin. Fernando is from a little place called Echahaquia in Mexico, and Darwin would refer to it as the back of beyond. And he has come from the back of beyond to center stage in the world. I mean, that's a quantum leap for any human being. And he has reached the 100 mark. 1-2. Ground ball, fair ball to Cabell, hangs it for Valenzuela. So they're gone in order. Only the second time in 6 the Cardinals have been retired in order. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. This telecast presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. We're going to the 7th inning in a 2-2 tie. 2 runs, 4 hits, and 1 error for each side. The Dodger bench that had been so quiet when the Cardinals got 2 in the 1st inning came alive on the 2-run home run by Bill Matlock. And right now Maldonado is trying to give Pedro Guerrero perhaps a batting tip as to about something he had spotted in Guerrero's last swing.
He's talking about the shoulders. He wasn't driving it with that front shoulder opening up a bit too soon and kind of looping it. Very graphic shot there.
Well, Guerrero, the last time up, hit a little fly ball to right field. He hit it off the end of the bat. Pretty good indication that he was way out in front of it. Ken Daly working on Mike Scioscia, Enos Cabell, and then Steve Sachs. 7th inning, 2-2. 0-1.
Ben, we've just heard from Toronto, and Dick Hauser has changed his pitching plans. Mark Gubiza instead of Black. So that's a change we just learned about just minutes ago.
Okay. 1-0. Gubiza and Alexander in Game 6. Meanwhile, 2-0 to Mike Scioscia, who is second in the National League in on-base percentage behind Guerrero. Reason we had mentioned earlier, we thought Scioscia was a little tired. In looking back, he had 2 hits, one of them a bunt, and 7 little balls hit in the air, not hard at all, little pop fly. He broke his bat and got a base hit in the 2nd inning. And then was awarded first on interference charge to Darrell Porter. Mike has put in a huge year.
Good one. He's going to get some MVP votes.
He should. So Mike Rourke has been on the phone, and in a minute, Todd Worrell evidently will answer the call again. 3-0. All 4. Now remember, Daly has worked 2 2/3 innings. And the question now is whether his needle is on empty or not.
First baseman, Enos Cabell.
Daly has made 36 pitches. That wouldn't be a lot for a starting pitcher. It's just a question as to how Whitey has used him this year. He's been in 57 games and averaged only a little more than 1 inning of work in each appearance.
You can see him setting up the defense as far as Cabell, because you got to be looking bunt.
Especially with Cabell's habit. He's a ground ball hitter. We mentioned that when he came up in the 4th inning, and he hit into the double play. On deck, Steve Sachs. Swing and a base hit. Scioscia to second. And now the Dodgers have 1st and 2nd and nobody out. with Sachs, Valenzuela, and Duncan. And we'll see as Porter looked over to the Cardinal dugout if Whitey is going to make a move or not. Sachs has been called back into the dugout. Tommy Lasorda is talking to him.
Hey, Pendleton broke in at third base. He certainly was looking bunt. Lasorda switched it, and now he's telling him exactly what he wants, and I'm sure it is make the third baseman feel it, but if he charges hard, don't be afraid to swing. We may switch off.
Here comes Whitey. So we wondered about just how long Daly could go, and perhaps we got the answer. 2 2/3 innings, and yep, they go into the heat and the smoke, and boy, what a time of day. On gray sky, coming up 5 o'clock, here comes a guy who throws bullets.
Then there were at least 2 of us looking bunt. Here's Pendleton on that last play by Cabell. Now watch him come charging in and put on the brakes like, whoops, what are you doing?
When you say there are 2 of us looking bunt, you mean you and Pendleton?
Me and Pendleton, yeah.
I was looking hit and run.
You were, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
What was it Mark Twain said? The difference of opinion is the difference between what makes horse racing and missionaries.
Yeah, well, Willie Van Diver told me, show me.
Let's take a look at Todd Worrell. When they brought him up from Louisville in August, he wound up with 3 wins, 5 saves. He's been successful in all 5 save opportunities, and he struck out 17 batters in 21 innings. So Sachs can expect smoke. Niedenfuer is in the Dodger bullpen. So first, it would appear Sachs is going to try and bunt, and then I would guess the Dodgers would hit for Valenzuela.
They back Sachs out of the box. They're going to be charging hard. Clark is in tight already. Pendleton's even with the line.
2 on, nobody out in the 7th. 2-2 tie. 0-1. Worrell has worked 1/3 of an inning. That was in game 3. Did not allow a run, but he did have a wild pitch charged against him. And he's always in the 90s, 94, 95 when he's really cranked up, and that one was 94. He threw a slider that time, and now he's behind, and Porter wants to go out and talk to him.
So does Clark. He's in a bunt situation, and Clark is not charging that hard. At the beginning, Pendleton is moving in. You're looking for bunts. Sure, now Malfitano and Sachs are going to talk, and sure, I started to say you're looking, maybe he'll switch off, but they weren't charging that hard. Lasorda, I tell you, he'll turn them loose if they charge too hard.
He doesn't have too much to turn loose with Socia at second and Cabell at first.
I mean the batter.
But Tommy very well can do that, all right.
Socia is getting a good jump, but doesn't have that great speed.
Clark ready to come to the plate, hoping to get a force at third. Ball 3. Bill Campbell and Ricky Horton, the left-hander, are throwing in the Cardinal bullpen. So it's been Forsch, Daly, and Worrell, used by Whitey Herzog and his pitching coach Mike Rourke. And Valenzuela might be relieved by Tom Niedenfuer, who's in the Dodger pen. 3-0. Strike. Now what do you do 3-1? Do you still have the bunt on? Do you have Sachs take? Would you gamble and play run and hit? Lasorda has all kinds.
Well, I'd have to call myself a conservative manager. I would want him to bunt the ball. I would want him to bunt it towards third and move him over. Fancy plays will get you right into the second division.
Sachs has only sacrificed 3 times all year. And he's going to swing, in fact, take. Now the question is, you don't expect him to try to bunt 3 and 2. What about striking out? He is not a strikeout hitter. Sachs has struck out about 5% of the time, 10% at tops. So let's see if that means the runners are going to go and Lasorda really gambling.
I'd hold him.
I think they'll hold as well. Boy, was that a big sequence of pitches.
It's just a fastball. It's just your ordinary 91-mile-an-hour fastball. What I mean, he just Forget the finesse. He just fired it. Not so sure it was a strike, but certainly too close for Saxey to take that pitch. He had to try to get a piece of it, and it's a big, big strikeout.
And Fernando is going to come up and bat. Down in the dugout, Terry Whitfield had a bat in his hands. In fact, he still has it. But Whitfield, number 45, can just go and sit down, and Fernando coming up. If Sachs had sacrificed and then first base would have been open, they might very well, they of course being that man, Tommy Lasorda, sent up a pinch hitter. But now we'll see what he does with his best hitting pitcher, Fernando. So from 3-0, you talk about Worrell fighting his way back. That was a great gutsy performance to go 3-0 in a league championship series and then come back and strike out the hitter. Socha at second, Cabell at first, 1 out. Ground ball off the glove of Worrell, and the runners move up. Socha advancing to third and Cabell to second. And now Mariano Duncan will be the batter. Take another look as Worrell flags it.
Looked like it was the outside part of the plate, and off the end of the bat, he just knocks it down, deflects it enough. Really fires at the first base, able to get Fernando. Fernando was going all out, but he doesn't have that great speed either.
Key for a rookie pitcher. So many of them will panic in that kind of a spot and throw the ball down the right field line. But Worrell made the full turn, threw it hard, but he hit Jack Clark right on the belt buckle.
We didn't have a chance, so much action, but before he even pitched to Fernando, he had talked to Ozzie Smith to set up who he was going to throw the ball to in case it was hit back to him in trying for the double play. So he was thinking about what he would do with the ball if he got it.
Mariano Duncan broke into the big leagues against Nolan Ryan, and the first at bat he ever had, Ryan struck him out, which didn't come as any big surprise.
They're kind of shortening up at first base, expecting a possible bunt for a base hit.
2 out, 2 on, a 2-2 tie. And he pops it up in foul ground. Porter and Clark, it's playable. It is Porter. And the key to the inning was Steve Sachs' inability to move the runners. Here's another edition of Baseball Remembered.
Here's that last play. First, look how short Clark is protected against the bunt. Now watch how he really thinks he's going to make this play right here. Doesn't look like anybody is hollering at this point. Now he sees Porter, but watch what he does when he sees Porter's going to make the catch. He's going to protect him. And what was Duncan doing the whole time? Here's the reaction.
Willie McGee will start it off in the bottom of the 7th inning in a 2-2 tie. Fake the bunt, ball 1. Two runs, 5 hits for the Dodgers. 2 runs, 4 hits for the Cardinals. Ball 2. McGee is 0 for 5 against Fernando with 4 strikeouts.
You'd almost be tempted to give him a take sign right here. See if he can draw the base on balls.
2-0. And now look out. 3-0. Fernando has walked 5. 1 of them intentional. And he walked McGee leading off the first inning, and it cost him 2 runs. For it.
When will he go is the question now.
Peranowski calling down to the Dodger bullpen. We'll see if Niedenfuer gets up. So the Dodgers had a golden opportunity and couldn't do anything. And immediately, as Niedenfuer gets up, here come the Cardinals.
And Scioscia warning against the bunt and looking at that bench to see if anything is going to come from the bench to help him.
Willie McGee, during the regular year, 56 bases. And 52 times a steal of second.
Fernando has a pretty good move now. He can hang you when he gets that front foot up. He can balance himself so well.
Now the trouble is, you talk about being on the horns of a dilemma. You have one eye on a rabbit and you have another on a guy who is a contact hitter who strikes out about once every 22 at bats, who has at least one hit in each of the 4 games, but none today, but as usual has made contact.
A runner like McGee makes you a one-eyed pitcher and a one-eyed hitter. You got one eye on the other guy and then one eye on McGee. The pitcher has one eye on the hitter, one eye on McGee, and Ozzie Smith the same way. He's watching Valenzuela and see what McGee's going to do. I tell you, speed, it just is upsetting.
Tommy Herr on deck as Willie takes his lead, held on by Cabell. And the bunt is an AstroTurf bunt. Big bounce. Oh, that took any chance. 1-4 sack. And of course, the lack of the sacrifice wrecked the Dodger chances in the 7th. And immediately the Cardinals get the sacrifice down.
The sacrifice bunt in many ways serves the purpose of a triple. I'll tell you, it puts that man in scoring position and upsets the ball club. Now you got Herr, Clark, and Cedeno. Sure, you got first base open, but forget about it. You got to worry about getting hitters.
And what has to frustrate Lasorda, the Dodgers led the league in sacrifices. They certainly should have become reasonably adept at it. But when the big moment came, it wasn't there. And when it came to the Cardinals, it was. Tommy Herr has doubled, grounded to short, flied to left, hitting .353. Ground ball to short. Going over to third is McGee. And actually, Duncan never had a chance to get him. Willie just breaks and moves so quickly. So 2 out. The tie-breaking run is 90 feet away. And Jack Clark at the plate. Clark has lined out to third, struck out, and singled hard to right. Cedeno is 0 for 2, and they're going to walk Clark. And I would too. I wouldn't want any part of it. So Jack Clark getting all the respect he deserves here. And of course, not only do you put him on, you hope to get out of the inning at least with a force play. And you have Cedeno on deck.
This is one of those situations where a manager could take the easy way out and say, hey, don't give him a good ball to hit. If you walk him, that's okay. And then they'll reach out and get one, and the monkey's off his back. What Lasorda is doing is saying, we're not going to let Jack Clark beat us. Pitch to Cedeno.
Well, he has seen Fernando walk 7. And Cedeno coming up, and Ron Perinoski is going out to the mound to talk. Perinoski never makes pitching changes. He just carries messages out there to Freddie, as they call him. One thing, certainly, I can tell you what they must be talking about. The possibility of a delayed double steal. You have to cover that when you're playing the Cardinals, even if it never happened. And even though you have Cedeno at the plate, you had best go over it anyway.
The Cardinals, when they come on the field, sitting on the bench, they're in a steal situation, so you certainly are going to cover that. You're going to give Cedeno at least 1 swing, possibly 2 strikes, and then really look out, because it could happen.
If Whitey Herzog calls for the delayed double steal, the man who will handle the throw from Scioscia would be Duncan. However, in this particular instance, it is so late in the game. If they put on the delayed double steal, Scioscia might not even throw through. he might go right after McGee. Even if it means runners at second and third, they would then put Cedeno on.
As deep as Duncan is, I doubt if he's throwing.
Right. Screwball fouled away. So in just trying to cover all the bases, the chances at this late in the game, this is the man they're worrying about, and if Clark tries to steal, they'll give him the base. They don't want McGee to beat it.
Where they're playing now, Van, that's guaranteed, because Sachs is too far. He'd have to get it on the run. Duncan can't get there either.
0-1. Almost hit him. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Mike Soshiwakin had a little bit out there. I'm sure Cedeno was just a bit upset. It was not a knockdown pitch. He was just trying to pitch him inside and say, give me back half that plate. You can see it for yourself. That ball was not a knockdown. The one to Sachs the other day was a knockdown. This was not. And what Runge is saying, let's not start anything that's not there. Ball is inside.
And Cedeno looks like he's saying, well, I'm the hitter, and I thought it was. And they have concluded the discussion.
Runge says, I'm the umpire, and let's get to playing baseball. Let's just cut it out. If anything's going to start, I'll stop it. He's getting on social a little bit.
Now Cedeno saying, all right, okay. Here's the guy, Willie McGee, representing the tie-breaking run at third. 2 out. Jack Clark at first. 1-1 to a somewhat hot Cesar Cedeno. One and one. And it's hit to Landro in center. And Fernando is out of the inning. No runs, 2 hits and 2 left. And both managers are going right down to the quick. Game 5 of the 1985 National League Championship Series is brought to you by Ford and your local Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Rich Smooth Meisterbrow, the beer that only tastes expensive. By Pennzoil Motor Oil, quality protection, ask for it. And by Certainteed, manufacturer of America's finest quality of home insulation. Boy, is the stage ever set for euphoria and delight for one club and heartbreak for another. We go to the 8th at Busch Stadium, all locked up 2-2. The Dodgers squandering an opportunity in the top of the 7th, and the Cardinals come up empty in the bottom of the 7th. And now it will be Landro, Guerrero, and Madlock against Todd Worrell.
We talk about Worrell's speed. All you have to do is look at Willie McGee, who is shading Landro a little bit towards left center field. I don't think he'll be able to pull him.
Ball 1.
Look at that defense. That gives you an indication of the speed. A lot of room in right center field. They think that Landro will go to left center field. They're really protecting that gap in left center.
And yet late in the game, of course, Jack Clark has to stay pretty close to the foul line back of first. He had a pretty good rip at that. 1-1. Oh, 94.
Whew. He just rears back and pumps.
1 ball and 1 strike to Kenny Landro. 2-1. The Cardinals scored in the first inning. Walks to McGee and Smith, and Tommy Hurst double picked them up. The Dodgers in the 4th inning had Landro single and a 1-out home run by Bill Madlock. Got it even. The Cardinals have used Kenny Forsch, Ken Daly, and Todd Worrell. The Dodgers with Valenzuela. And Madlock will be the 3rd hitter in the inning. And he goes to left field, but it's just a fly ball to Landro. That's the way they played him. That's the way they pitched him, up and away.
That's good pitching and certainly good scouting.
The batter is Guerrero. Hit into a double play. Fly to center. Deep. and then had a bad swing and hit just a little fly ball off the end of the bat in the 6th inning. And that resulted, if you remember the scene, of Candy Maldonado giving him a little pantomime of the fact he was opening up too soon at the plate.
Porter's gone in for some equipment change. Maybe he's going to get an extra sponge the way he's throwing that ball.
Might have broken a webbing or something on the previous pitch that was 94.
Well, now the catcher's mitts they're like tweezers. If the bat boy's running down, he may be just changing gloves.
He's got a new one. So Porter is up and on his way.
It used to be that the pocket was the big thing, but the gloves today, it's the webbing. You also take a good look, you'll see that flap that hangs down we were talking about to protect the Adam's apple.
I don't think Tom Nieto was wearing it when he got one in the neck.
See that glove, how it's creased right down the middle? It's a big pocket now, and the webbing is very important. It used to be a small pocket and a couple strings across there, but then we didn't know any better. I like this style better. Doesn't hurt your hand.
And they are working on that old glove. Apparently he popped a string. Little slider for a strike to Guerrero. 0-1.
Hey, if you can throw 94, 95 consistently, you can break in the glove in a hurry, I'll tell you.
That slider was 82. Fastball. So an 82-mile-an-hour slider, a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, and the count is 0-2. Well, you want to talk about hitting in the big leagues. 2-2 in the 8th inning. Fastball, he didn't get around on it. Foul ball to Clark. So the Dodgers big guy goes 0 for 4. And with 2 out in the 8th inning, Bill Madlock the batter. Madlock against Bob Forsch lined out to third and hit a 2-run home run. Against Ken Daly, he flied to right. Now we'll see as he goes against Worrell. Strike. And that was 94. So he's huffing and puffing, and he's going to blow your house down. Good breaking ball.
That was as good a breaking ball as you want to see.
What a beauty. Unless you're trying to hit it. 0-2. Hit off the end of the bat, dribble to Clark. He's got it in fair ground. He's something, that big kid. Todd Worrell. Spell the name in capital letters. Bottom of the 8th inning in a 2-2 tie. Fernando Valenzuela on the mound. Tom Niedenfuer is down in the bullpen. Jeff Lottie is down in the Cardinal pen. And for the Cardinals, Landrum, Pendleton, and Porter, with Todd Worrell due to bat 4th. So Niedenfuer will be backing up Fernando, and there's Lottie. 2 runs, 5 hits, 1 error for the Dodgers. 2 runs, 4 hits, 1 error for the Cardinals. Landrum is 0 for 3. Landrum flied to center, grounded to third, and hit into a force play. Hit 280 during the regular year.
That was an interesting shot.
He talking to himself?
He was talking to somebody who was up above. I don't see any planes going over.
2-0, the count at Tito.
That was nice. He's going to open up the peepers.
Yeah.
He's a very exciting guy to watch.
Ball 3. You remember Fernando started the 7th inning by walking Willie McGee, and that certainly looked like it would prove to be his undoing, and he got off the hook. Now he's behind to the leadoff hitter in the 8th. He has walked 7.
Like a veteran pitcher, he just walks off that mound, regroups. He knows he's in trouble. He knows he made some bad pitches, and say, hey, let's go to work from here.
3 balls, no strikes. In there. The most walks Fernando gave in a game this year. He walked 8 in July, and in that game he beat the Cubs despite walking the 8th. 3-1. And he has walked his 8th now.
Base on balls in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning usually really comes home to haunt. He walked the first 2 to start it off. That's where the 2 runs came. No defense against that base on balls.
One other consideration for Lasorda and Pernoski. Fernando is an excellent fielding pitcher, in direct contrast, for instance, to Jerry Royce, who is not a good fielding pitcher. Despite Fernando making an error today, he has very good instincts. Pendleton doubled, grounded out, and struck out. Terry hitting .263 in the series. And he's bunting and takes instead a strike. 0-1.
He really put a good move on Landrum. He had him breaking back to first base. Madlock is not in tight. He's moved in a little bit now. Cabell was holding the runner on and broke in very hard from first base. You see Pendleton taking a good look at his third base coach Lanier. There's any number of things they can do. Socha's going to find out something in a minute. He's got to find out something. Valenzuela's wild. Can he pitch out? Maybe get something from the bench, but you'd like to.
By the way, Landrum stole 1 base and was caught 4 times this year in the regular season.
That was just a flip move. That usually tells you there's no pitch out on. And of course now Pendleton does a good job backing out and taking a good look at Lanier, and look at him going through some signs as if he may be putting on a hit and run play.
And Nick Leavitt went over to talk to Tito Landrum.
Anytime you do something like that, Lanier checking again with Pendleton, you do things like that, then the other ball club starts thinking, and when wheels start to spin, anything can happen.
0-1 to count to Terry Pendleton. Landrum at first in the 8th inning of a 2-2 tie. Pendleton again another check with Lanier. In a sense, and in a very small sense, Fernando's lack of control has taken away a hit and run play, because he's walked 8. Normally he's right around the plate and you can play hit and run with him a lot. They haven't been able to try it because he has been off the plate so much. The last Cardinal hit, Jack Clark singled in the 5th inning.
That's not Fernando's good move. He's just flipping it over there, and if nothing else, he's trying to see if Pendleton will tip off his hand by sliding that hand up the bat handle a little bit. He hasn't done anything yet.
0-1. They pitch out. Landrum holding. 1-1. And for Lasorda and Malfitano and Monty Basgall sweating it out in the near corner of the Dodger dugout. 1-1 to Pendleton. On deck, Darrell Porter. 2-1. Now it's an ideal time to put on a play, but again the question is, can you rely on Fernando throwing a strike and Lanier maybe hanging out a sign?
You got to look for it here. You can't worry about Fernando's wildness, because if he's near the plate, he's got to put the bat on the ball, and he will break up that double play. The double play would be the inning record.
Landrum held on by Cabell at first. He's not going.
He froze him again, Vin. He's done a good job holding him on. He's just flipping the ball over there on his moves, and then he just freezes him. And Landrum was actually breaking back to the bag.
Remember, we talked about how the Dodger hitters or pitchers were going to try and hold the ball extra long to let the runner settle, and Fernando did quite a job.
Chased a very bad ball, like something might have been on there, and Landrum now Landrum is talking to Leyva as they have a meeting on the mound. Cabell has come in. Leyva's really talking to him at first base. They just finished that meeting between Landrum and Leyva.
2-2 the count. Nobody out in the 8th and a 2-2 tie. Game 5.
See Socia checking with his bench. See if he can get some help.
Two and 2. Hit to left field and deep. Guerrero is there, however, to make the play. And back to first comes Landrum. The 1 out. Landrum holding at first. And Darrell Porter coming up. Porter has walked twice and struck out. After Porter is Todd Worrell, and the pitcher is on deck. But Jeff Lottie is down in the pen. Ball 1. You might be surprised, a big veteran catcher, but Porter has hit into only 3 double plays all year. 1 ball and no strikes. Pendleton, who just flied to left, had hit into 18 double plays. One and 0 to Porter. Landrum at first. 2-2 in the 8th. 1-1. We're making news here at Busch Stadium. 2-2 in the 8th. Ball 2. Fernando has walked 8, struck out 6, and has made a lot of pitches. He has now made 128 with 1 out in the 8th inning. He is backed up by Niedenfuer, and Landrum a cautious lead at first. That's a strike. Whitey Herzog saw the Cardinals miss an opportunity in the 7th inning. Now sees his leadoff man Landrum get aboard in the 8th, and we have 1 out.
Valenzuela's really done a good job of holding him close. When he puts a good move on him, he's got him breaking back. That was not his good move.
2 balls, 2 strikes.
The lead Landrum is getting, and the way Valenzuela is holding him on, should he try to run and Porter strike out, they're going to have double play. Porter usually takes that big swing.
2-2. Landrum goes, swung on and missed. Socia late.
Mike made a bad throw, and he's explaining it now. Even bouncing it.
So Porter strikes out, and Landrum does what he normally doesn't do.
Just threw it right in the ground for some reason.
The some reason is the bottom of the 8th, and apparently Socia might have thought that Porter's swing bothered his throw. Watch him stagger, and he had to throw over the top of his head. He tried to maintain that Porter had gotten in his way. He lost the case.
I don't see it. I really don't.
Now Brian Harper is going to come up and hit for Todd Worrell. Jeff Lottie throwing in the pen.
Number 25, Brian Harper.
Brian Harper with Pittsburgh last year, and he's a kid from Southern California. And he drives it to left, but Guerrero has a play, and the inning is over. As Harper flies to left, Landrum is left at second, and at the end of 8, a 2-2 tie. The players know how tough it was for Fernando, and his coach, he really understands. Jeff Lottie, who celebrated his 29th birthday on Tuesday, will pitch to Mike Marshall, then Mike Scioscia and Enos Cabell.
Fernando really battled 8 base on balls. He had 7 strikeouts and that very shaky start. When you walk 2 and they score, usually that means goodbye.
Hard breaking ball, and even harder swing, and the count 1-1. Marshall has been a victim of some brilliant Cardinal defensive play. He banged one up the middle. Ozzie Smith took a hit away from him. He hit a shot back to the box in the 6th inning, and Ken Daly made a brilliant play to get him. In between, he walked. So he is 0 for 2, top of the 9th. Fastball, ball 2. Well, we are sure seeing the committee today. Daly, Worrell, and Lottie. After Bob Force started. Fastball, cracked bat, ground ball to Ozzie Smith. 1 away. Game 6 coming up tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The Royals and the Blue Jays in Toronto. Bob Costas and Tony Kubek will be there, and then we'll be talking to you the following day for Game 6 from Dodger Stadium at 3:05 Eastern Daylight Time. Here's Scioscia. Scioscia single to right, reached on the error interference charge against Porter, and walked in the 7th inning. Little fly ball to right field. I tell you what, there is going to be a lot of noise on the 3rd out in this top of the 9th inning. So in case you're not keeping score and you're wondering, in the bottom of the 9th inning, the St. Louis Cardinals will have Willie McGee, Ozzie Smith, Tommy Herr, and if anybody gets on, Jack Clark. And Fernando is calling it a day. Adios, amigos. They'll bring in a fresh horse, Tom Niedenfuhr, to pitch the 9th. And when it was all said and done, a long, difficult afternoon for Fernando, but he limited the Cardinals to 4 hits. Ball 1.
That's the Fernando numbers of old, Vin, if nothing else. 2, 4, 1.
And then 8 walks and 6 strikeouts. One ball and no strikes. Interesting footnote to Fernando's departure to show you what kind of a year he has had. Fernando Valenzuela is the only pitcher to ever win Pitcher of the Month honors with a losing record. That was back in his incredible month of April when he was 2-3 and hardly had any earned run average at all. 2-0 to Cabell. On deck, Steve Sachs. There's Buff, as they call him, Tom Niedenfuhr. He has a date with the Cardinals in the 9th inning. Cabell trying to shrink the strike zone. Right down the pipe. 3-1. Valenzuela was in constant trouble. He retired the side in order only twice in 8 innings, but he got away with it. He got out of it even. 3-1 to Cabell. Fly ball, and it'll be Willie McGee. And look out now. Here comes the bottom of the 9th inning. A picture of frustration, a picture of total weariness. Fernando Valenzuela, whose only consolation in this clutch game is that he went 8 and got even, 2-2. What an effort. 132 pitches in constant trouble, and he kept his ball club alive through 8. Now he hands it over to Tom Niedenfuer.
Now pitching number 49.
And at first base, Len Matuszek. It is a normal 2-for-1 switch by any manager, so that Matuszek, coming into the game at the same time as Niedenfuer, will bat in the number 9 slot. Niedenfuer will go in the spot where the last out was recorded. That was Cabell. So if there is a 10th inning, the Dodgers would have Sachs, Matuszek, and Duncan. But standing in their way in the bottom of the 9th, Willie McGee, Ozzie Smith, and Tommy Hurd. McGee 0 for 2 with 2 walks against Valenzuela. Ball 1. Whitey Herzog all geared for action in the 9th. Well, we had a feeling it was going to be bullpen against bullpen, and that's where we are in the 9th inning. Strike. 1-1. The Cardinals have used Force, Daly, Worrell, and Lottie. The Dodgers, Valenzuela, and now Niedenfuer. Niedenfuer worked in the Fernando game, the first game of the series. He worked 2 innings. He allowed a hit and struck out 2. He has not pitched since then, and he's been behind to McGee as Amalfitano brings Kenny Landreau up in left center. 2-1. Madlock right at the bag. Matuszek guarding the foul line at first. High pop fly, and it's Madlock in foul ground. And they take care of McGee. So Willie goes 0 for 3, striking out twice and walking twice. And the batter is Ozzie Smith. Ozzie has walked, popped to short, flied to left, and sacrificed. 2-2 tie. Bottom of the 9th inning. Game 5. Fastball, pop foul, out of play.
Much like Worrell, Niedenfuer is your typical relief pitcher. Rear back and fire. Throw as hard as you can for as long as you can. Trouble is there. The pressure's there. Don't get fancy.
And especially it's 5:45 St. Louis time on a cloudy, overcast day. The lights have been on since the start of the game. Fastball fouled away again. Anytime you get 2 strikes on Ozzie Smith, it's a challenge for even the hardest thrower in the league. As we mentioned, he strikes out once every 22 at-bats. He has never struck out more than 49 times in an entire season. On deck, Tommy Hurd. Ball 1. Niedenfuer and Socia. Matuszek, Sachs, Duncan, Madlock, Guerrero, Landreau, and Marshall. And Tom Niedenfuer picking up the pitching burden. And that's driven to deep right field. Back goes Marshall. Gone. Ultra Miller MVP, needless to say, is Ozzie Smith. For Joe Garagiola, Vin Scully.